Too Close to Call is a sports talk radio show brought to you by Kevin Mahalik, featuring commentary on the week's biggest sports news and events and engaging behind-the-scenes player interviews. While specializing in Philadelphia sports, Too Close to Call will also discuss issues and events happening on a national scale. Too Close to Call airs Tuesday from 1 to 2 p.m. and Saturday and Sunday from 8 to 9 a.m.
Philadelphia, here they come, team of the year. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, Sixers. 10, 9, 8, 76ers. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, Sixers. 10, 9, 8, 76ers. Clap your hands, everybody, for Philadelphia 76ers.
Aloha and hello out there, everybody. What's going on? I am Kevin Mahalik, your host, as always, for Too Close to Call, the sports talk radio show here at USALA Media and USALA Radio. And I thought we'd carry in this week with the Sixers theme song, since they decided to come out of the gate strong, open up 3-0 here in what overall was a good week for Philadelphia sports this past week. And that's something we haven't been able to say here in the past couple of weeks. So it was a nice change of pace, that's for dang sure. But first of all, I want to thank everybody for tuning in and listening out there. I want to let you know, if you are listening to the audio at USALAmedia.com, we are streaming live here on YouTube at USALA Media. So if you head to YouTube.com, type in USALA Media, you'll see a link there of Too Close to Call live with Kevin Mahalik. So you can check us out and you can watch some video if you guys are chilling at home, or if you're on your late lunch break just after 1 o'clock here on Tuesday. Turn over to YouTube. Check me out. Listen along. But first of all, thanks for listening. I do want to mention that if I have to cough or take a sip of water here more so this week than in weeks past, a little bit of a raspiness to the voice. I was actually out at the Pitt Panther versus Miami Hurricane football game this past Saturday, and what was a good game. And Miami scored late, and being a Pitt fan and having my father and sister both go to Pitt, it was fun to be out there in a fun game. But obviously, lost my voice a little bit there cheering on the team. So if I have to pause for a drink, just bear with me. And but we'll kick it off, like I said, diving into your Philadelphia 76ers. They open up the season this past week 3-0. They opened up against the Boston Celtics in Game 1, as we talked about last week. Al Horford playing his old team right off the jump there. And it was a good, solid start for the Sixers, as they showed a lot of balance offensively. If you read the box score the next day, you saw that all 5 of their starters had at least 15 points. And this is new for them compared to years past. The ability to have that type of balance and go to multiple options offensively to score for them, as opposed to, as soon as, or as recent as 2 years ago, it was Embiid more or less, and then Ben Simmons kind of filters in there. But they really have more options with Harris and even Josh Richardson offensively. So the balance there of having all 5 starters, Horford included, over 15 points really is a positive, because defensively you can't just key in and focus on one specific person. So Embiid only played 23 minutes. He got into a little bit of foul trouble the first night, but once again, the signing of Al Horford paying dividends early on, because he was able to transition over to the center spot, to which they went a little bit smaller. Harris plays the 4. They bring in the extra guard, Thibault or Korkmaz off the bench, but they really don't lose a lot. As to, even last year they had to go to Big Boban, and he was good, but he's not Al Horford at the center position if they have to go that way. But it was a close game into the fourth quarter when the Sixers called a timeout. Actually, coming out of a timeout, they ran a set play for a three-pointer for Korkmaz. He was able to drill it. Then they get a stop, come back down. Tobias Harris hits a three-pointer, and it went from a 4-point lead to a 10-point lead, and that's what I like to call the quick 6. It's basically, I've told my bunch of friends I'm trying to patent that, so nobody else used that, but the quick 6, it's what the Golden State Warriors did for years and years when they had their recent dynasty for, 5-6 years in a row. They've played Cleveland or whatever the heck it was, but what they would do is essentially they get a three-pointer offensively, then they cause a steal or a quick miss shot defensively, get out in transition, hit another three, and literally they score 6 points in like 15 seconds, and exactly what happened to Boston happens, and you go, oh, we're down 4, bang, bang, all of a sudden you're down 10, you got a timeout, and you're going, what the heck just happened? We've been battling back, and all of a sudden it's bang, right to double digits again, and I think the Sixers now have that ability with their, kind of defensive improvements that they've made. And we'll get into a little bit of those numbers moving forward. But just touching on the other games before we get into some advanced statistics are they beat the Pistons 117-111 on the road. Joel Embiid misses game 2 already. So for those of you out there thinking the over-under is at like 70 games played, that took like 24 hours to really come crashing down. Now, he did suit up again against the Hawks in game 3, but still, it just goes to show you that they're going to be cautious. They're going to manage his workload, and the fact that they won a game without him, again, that's different than years past. So beat the Pistons without Embiid. Matisse Thybulle, who we talked about and who I thought would get into the rotation, certainly asserting himself. He's going to get a ton of minutes moving forward. He played 24 against the Pistons. Like we talked about, his offense is going to be slow to develop at this level, but defensively, he's already where he needs to be, and really that's what they're asking him to do, coming in here as a rookie, even though he played in college all 4 years, because 0 points in 24 minutes, and, the guy actually played a pretty solid basketball game. So Tobias Harris, Al Horford, they carried the team. Like I said, Horford was able to shift down to the 5, Harris the 4. They go a little bit small, and a comeback victory, down 13 points in the third quarter. So I know NBA is a game of runs, and a lot of times you don't have to tune into the fourth quarter because one team's going to be up by 10 and the other one's going to be up by 10, and it's just going to be close when it comes down to the end of it. But either way, a comeback win from double digits in the second half is nice to see early on in the season, for sure. So game 3 against the Hawks, another comeback victory. This time they were down 8 points with 5 minutes left. They actually closed the game on a 15-5 run, which was impressive. And again, this is a game that the Sixers typically don't win. If you've been following the Sixers through the entire quotes in the air process, they haven't been able to win these games. These close games late, even in the playoffs we talked about the last 2 years, they got to learn how to win basketball games because they've basically been finding ways to lose them, whether it's a missed shot or Embiid. He loves to turn the ball over when he kind of gets one-on-ones at the end of the game, but Embiid had a huge night. He had 36 and 13. Like I said, coming off that ankle injury, rolled ankle, I guess, sprained ankle. He missed the previous game, so he looked good and healthy, which was nice to see because obviously with his injury concerns, you're going, hopefully this isn't anything more serious than, he just stepped on a toy in the morning and rolled his ankle type of thing. So another slow start, second straight road game. That's going to happen. It's tough out of the gates, to travel like they are, and we'll touch on that here briefly as we end the segment for the Sixers. But like I said, 3-0, fantastic start, only unbeaten team in the Eastern Conference that's left after beating the Atlanta Hawks, but a few causes for concern. Now, I know it's been a week. Everybody's feeling good. Comeback wins, 3-0. I like to, kind of go on both sides of the coin here when it comes to the positives and negatives of how we're feeling about our teams. And it's kind of what we thought it would be. They are who we thought they were. Who is that? Dennis Green back in the day in his wonderful press conference. But they really are. The Sixers are who we thought they were. They are an excellent defensive team. And if you look at the advanced statistics here, as I'm scrolling on my computer to make sure I get these right for you guys out there, but defensively, they are in the top 5 in a couple different categories. They are first in steals per game at 10.7, and a big part of that is Thybulle, averaging, I think it is 2+, almost 3 per game here as a rookie, and really gets his hands in a lot of the passing lanes, so that's fantastic to see, as well as blocks per game, tied for third at 7 per game, and we know that defensively, that aligns with exactly what Elton Brand was trying to do this offseason, because overall net defensive rating, 96.8, puts them good for 4th in the league, so right now the advanced statistics are telling you that this is a very good defensive team. They're not giving anything easy. Teams are having to work for everything that they get, but looking at the box score, realizing the Pistons scored 111, the Hawks scored 103, it hasn't really translated into points, but the Hawks did shoot the lights out. I mean, Trae Young was shooting from the logo and making things last night, so certain times you just, shake your head and say, good for you, man. But offensively, New pieces in place. It's going to be the last thing that comes and the last thing that really gets rolling. But just under 30% from three. And in 2 games, they were in the 20s. The third one, they were close to 40, which is why that's up at 30 early on. So really haven't shot it that well from behind the arc. And the 2 areas of concern are 20 turnovers a game. You can't win basketball games over the course of 4 months, turning it over 20 times. Eventually, you're going to play good teams who are going to turn those 20 turnovers into 30, 40, 50 points, and you're going to lose the basketball game. So 20 turnovers a game, that's been an issue in the past for the Sixers, so that's nothing new. I think it comes with camaraderie, getting to know each other, playing with each other offensively, learning each other's tendencies, where they like to do, where they like the ball, what they like to do off of screens, pick and pops, pick and rolls. So it's going to come, but through a week, 20 a game, not good. And obviously that's something Brett Brown's talking to the guys about. And 30 fouls a game. So a lot of blocks, a lot of steals, a lot of fouls, ugly defensive style basketball, but that leads to 3-0 hoops. And this next week will actually be a really good gauge because the Sixers Wednesday at home versus the 3-0 Timberwolves. A little bit of a surprise for the Timberwolves to be 3-0, but then they go on the road for a West Coast trip. By the time we talk next Tuesday, they'll have completed half the West Coast trip. They'll have finished Saturday, Monday at the Trailblazers, at the Suns. But they have a 4-game total trip. So 1 at home and then 4 on the road for the, like we mentioned, 6 out of the first 8 on the road. So out of those 5, you'd like to go 4-1, 3-2. You get to 6-2 through the first 8 with 6 on the road. That's a heck of a start for your 76ers. So out of the gate for them, bunch of positives. We got ourselves a basketball team, a deep team, a tough team, teams that rotate, that can rotate bodies, not reliant on just 1 or 2 guys. So if you guys aren't tuning into those games yet, please do so because they are a lot of fun to watch, that's for sure. But transitioning over to the ice now, the other wintertime sport here. We'll keep it wintertime for the first 20 minutes or so here. So we got ourselves about 9 minutes left. We'll talk Flyers. This past week, a positive week for them as well. Round of applause. Like I said, Philly sports actually showing up, giving me something to talk about, something positive. It's not quite as much of a therapy session in here today for the entire hour. And hopefully you guys are hearing that on the other and a little more joy in my voice. But a 2-1 week for them. They go into Chicago, beat the Blackhawks 4-1. Chicago's not very good at hockey this year, and they weren't last year. They had their run of, I think, 3 cups they won in 5 years or 6 years or something like that, but Father Time's caught up to a few of them, and they're kind of where the Phillies were, at the tail end of they had their dynasty run. Now they have a lot of these big contracts they have to hang on to while they're trying to implement some youth, and it's not meshing great. So took care of business. Hayes, Giroux, JVR score. Brian Elliott plays strong. Joel Farabee, like I said, once again, Joel or Joel, his first point, NHL point, it was an assist, and he almost had his first goal. However, it was ruled offsides, and it was taken off the board. I think they actually had 2 goals that night ruled offsides and taken off. So, guys, just keep your gosh darn skates on the ice for another split second, and we can score some goals here. So, then they played this weekend against Columbus and actually threw up a touchdown. It was wild, kind of following along there, and, I went out to dinner Saturday night, so I missed the 3rd period, and apparently that was the dumbest decision of the weekend because the Flyers scored 5 goals in the 3rd period. They were actually trailing 4-2 early in the 3rd period before they reared off 5 straight, and JVR with 2 more goals. So JVR's getting hot. Everybody out there was hammering JVR. He doesn't have a goal yet. We're 5 games in, 6 games in. What's the deal? Listen, JVR is a goal scorer. He's in the ugly parts of the ice, the gritty parts, the front of the net. He has a lot of rebounds, a lot of tipped opportunities, and when goal scorers get hot, they score in bunches, and that's exactly what we're seeing here with 3 in 2 games. I think that makes like 4 in 3 games or 5 in 4 games for JVR, but he's starting to find the back of the net, so he'll be just fine. He's going to get his 30 a year. He's not an assist guy. Once again, that's not his game. He drives the net, plays in the ugly areas, gets those rebounds, gets those ugly goals, even on power plays. So Jake Voracek had a couple points, which was nice to see. He caught a break on his 1 goal. It was a tough angle. Took a wrister, hit off a body, went in for him. That's something he needs. He's been off to a little bit of a slow start. There's concern whether it's age and is he good anymore, or if it's just a slow start. So, we're 10 games in here. It's kind of getting to that point where we're starting to see him pick things up, and now that he's a veteran, it could take a little bit more time to get the legs churning, back in shape, get your feel for it. So it's something we'll monitor moving forward, and you could see his name sprinkled in trade rumors come the deadline. But hopefully he continues to play well, because he's got a heavy contract that he's got to live up to here. Him and Giroux being, I think, the two highest paid guys on the team. You're going to need points and production out of those individuals. So Hayes scores shorthanded. Kevin Hayes has been fantastic, ladies and gentlemen, for these first 10 games. He's been worth every penny of this signing. And imagine where they'd be without this guy. I mean, Nolan Patrick having the headaches and the head issues that they think they got squared away. And, I'm not making light of concussions or head issues or anything like that, but it's just you don't know when he's going to come back, if he's going to be able to stay on the ice when he does come back. You don't know how the human brain's going to kind of react just because it's a crazy organ. So the fact that now he's our second center and we don't even have our third center, just the lines would be so much different without him there. And he's really established himself early on as a leader of this team, somebody these kids can look to, kind of a veteran presence, and really endured himself to the Philadelphia crowd and media here early on. So kudos to Kevin Hayes for sure on his start. And another gentleman who's had a heck of a start is Travis Konechny. He's really shown that sniper ability here. And as I jump around with some of these statistics I have written in front of me here, TK, he's shooting at a 30% shooting percentage, meaning 30% of the time he shoots, the puck's going in the net. And for you non-followers of hockey every day, that is astronomically high. Okay, the top 10 last year, the average was 16%. So basically that would put him the top of the top, and it's not going to continue for 82 games. He's just not going to score 3 out of every 10 times he shoots the puck. That's not the way it works. So it does show you, though, that he is seeing the opportunities and taking advantage of them. And he's getting daylight in areas that he can score from. And to his credit, he's not missing them. So that's what he should be doing. Now, you understand they're not all going to continue to go in, but as long as you're in that area giving yourself those opportunities, I got no complaints for TK. And, he's been fantastic coming off that deal and really earn that money for sure. So let's see, the last game of the week, and the only real negative that's kind of going on in Philadelphia sports this entire week, and it's a damn shame because the kid himself, he really had big expectations from myself and everybody else, but that's Carter Hart. The Flyers lose 5-3. Carter Hart struggled once again. He got pulled for, I think, the second time in 3 starts. He gave up 5 goals this time before they pulled him. He was pulled after 4 goals the last time they pulled him, and some people are starting to kind of ring the bell for cause of concern. Is he really the future? Do we know if he's an NHL caliber goalie? Yes, he was up last year and good, but that was only for a few months of the season. We've never seen him, truly establish himself at this level. Should we send him back down to the AHL to get more seasoning? Is he ready for this level of competition? And just pump the brakes, everybody, with, the immediate outlandish reaction. Because, first of all, the kid's, I think, 20 years old. So, yes, he is young. And there's going to be growing pains with younger players because he hasn't had a full season at the NHL level. I don't think the kid's ever traveled from the Czech Republic back to Philadelphia, then over to Western Canada, then back to Philadelphia in a matter of 8 days before to play hockey at the highest level on national television. It hasn't happened. It's all new to him, and he has the makeup to break out of this slump. But I touched on this the one time on an earlier episode of Too Close to Call, and that's a good point for me to jump in and say there are about 15 or 16 backlogged episodes now. If you guys are liking what you're hearing out there, you can head to speaker through USALAmedia.com and check out all our the podcast link to check out all the backlogged episodes here that I'll reference as we continue to go forward, so you can double check me to make sure I was right. But I said he's going to have those stinkers of a game. He looks lost time to time in the face and in his eyes, and he just doesn't look ready. And It's going to happen as a kid. Yes, he has to limit those, and he can't allow those 2 out of 3 times he's on the ice. But once again, it's a little bit of a confidence shaker. He's never been lit up before, I don't think, for 10 goals in 2 games, or I think he stopped 50 out of his last 65 shots for a horrible save percentage. But give the kid some time to find some rhythm, let him find his footing, and we'll be okay. So the 3 games they have coming up this week, they got the Penguins, the Devils, and the Leafs. Obviously tonight against the Pens, huge game. We hate the Penguins. Sidney Crosby, boo, you stink. So, but the first one of the year, always fun against them. Not sure who's going in net. I didn't see by the time I got on air here. Usually we know the morning of due to the morning skate, but my gut's telling me he's going to go with Brian Elliott, and then we're going to see him split the games this weekend. So, overall thoughts on the Flyers here as we wrap up the first segment. 5-4-1 through 10 games. Now, you may be thinking to yourself, yeah, that's all right. They should probably be better, 500. I don't know if that's acceptable. Well, here's a stat for you to end the segment. The last time the Flyers were over 500 through 10 games was 2010-2011. So when I said they can't get off to a slow start, the bar was not high, because some people would say, hey, 5-4-1 is a slow start. No, it's not. It's their best start in 10 years. So we may be 4th or 5th in the standings right now, but it's better than they've been. So positivity, we're moving the right direction. We'll figure out the goalie situation. We'll continue to plug away, but solid starts from the Flyers, 5-4-1. Sixers 3-0. Both teams got 3 games by the time I talk to you guys next Tuesday. So stick with us here, though. That'll wrap up the first segment of Too Close to Call, Sports Talk Radio here at USALA Media. We're going to pause for a brief word from one of our sponsors. Come on back with us, though. We're going to be talking Phillies and Joe Girardi in the next segment. I know you guys want to hear about it. Hang in there.
Finding the right pros for home projects can be tough and spark a lot of questions like, how do I find a pro who can help? Will they do a good job? Will I get a fair price? That's where Home Advisor can help. From leaky faucets to major remodels, Home Advisor connects you to the right pro for the job in seconds and even helps you get a fair price. Read reviews, check project cost guides, and book appointments. Go to homeadvisor.com or download the free Home Advisor app to start your next project.
And welcome back, everybody, to Too Close to Call, your sports talk radio show here at USALA Media and USALA Radio. Just after 1:20 here on Tuesday afternoon, October 29th. Halloween coming up later this week. Hopefully everybody's got their costumes ready to go, trick-or-treating for the young kids, and have bought all their candy for everybody else coming to their house, because I haven't yet. So note to self here, buy some candy by the time Thursday rolls around. So a little rainy out there with the forecast today. That's okay, because it's actually not rainy in the Philadelphia Phillies near future forecast, or whatever the heck it's called. But it's amazing what a week can do, because the last time we were on here, we were talking about how horrible the press conference was when they let go of Gabe Kapler, and how bad they looked, and the optics were horrible, and there was, Clentak wanted one thing, McPhail Middleton wanted another, and they weren't on the same page. And since that time, I talked about last week that it was either Joe Girardi or Buck Showalter, and we found out that it was Joe Girardi. He was hired, I believe it was last Thursday, the off day of the World Series. He was introduced with a press conference yesterday, I believe it was, another off day of the World Series. So Major League Baseball all over the timing there. They know exactly what they're doing when it comes to announcements and managers and things like that. So Joe Girardi hired. Binder Joe. I actually didn't know that until I was looking into Joe Girardi, his background and everything like that. But he was known as Binder Joe because he actually enjoyed the analytics with the New York Yankees. So for all of you guys out there who are talking about he's not into analytics, that's why he was fired, because he didn't use them. Well, he just didn't use them enough, apparently. But, that's not who we want here. We had that guy here. And the fact that you learned this during his press conference, but he's an engineer. He's a math guy. So he basically said numbers, he loves numbers. He can't have too much information. The more he has, the more he wants, because those engineers and math guys are big time crunch it all, what's it tell us, what do we do? Joe just has a fantastic way of balancing the human aspect to the numbers aspect, as well as how to communicate this to his players. So, big picture things, though, Joe Girardi absolutely crushed his opening interview. It was just night and day from Gabe Kapler. And I'm actually going to be able to watch Philly's postgame once again and actually listen to the guy talk, because he was a human being up there. Oh, my, what a concept that was. He told stories. He told jokes. He referenced, old Phillies players and growing up and going to Wrigley Field with his wife. And, he was engaging with the questions, and he was making people laugh, and he was smiling, and he was like, hey, let me tell another story. Yeah, go ahead, Joe. Like, he was totally in control of the moment, and it was exactly what Philadelphia fans needed, because the Phillies put up the front, and good for them. It's one of those things, kind of a golf clap, but we all know what the hell you're doing here, Phillies. Middleton and McPhail, nowhere to be seen in this press conference. Basically, because everybody ripped him last time, saying Klentak was on his own island. What the hell is he even here for? Because he didn't want to do this. He doesn't want to hire the new guy. Like, what does he even do here? Because this is supposed to be his job, and you're telling us it's not. So they ran him out there to run the press conference to essentially say, hey, this was his call. This was his choice. Ask him the questions, because he was the guy behind the whole thing, even though we all know he wasn't. We know, yes, he was involved, but he wasn't ultimately the decision maker on let's hire Joe Girardi. That was Middleton, the guy who owns the team with the big bucks. So I thought that was kind of just a little bit funny. Obviously, it's something they have to do for the optics and the media. You totally understand it. But for those of us, and I consider you guys, the listeners out there, the Too Close to Call family, you guys were smart enough to see through that and see what's actually going on there. So, with that said, they did say all the right things. Klentak mentioned all the right things when it comes to analytics, why they brought in Joe Girardi, because it's almost phase 3 of the Phillies rebuild, because he's the third manager. Weird. That's a nice way to put it. Oh, it's part of our phase. First one, Pete McCannon, a lot of young kids. He's got to show them how to be professional, show them, he's been managing 30-some years. Then they go to Gabe Kapler with the analytics, because they want to balance the new school, old school. It's time to win. It's time to move on. We're going to implement some of this stuff, and now it's win or go home time. Now it's bringing the guy with the experience who's done it before, because he knows what he's doing, he knows how to win, and everybody knows in this clubhouse anything under a playoff appearance next year is unacceptable, because this year there was talk of, well, they're improving and they're getting better and they're developing and well, no, win. We got to win. We got to win now. We're done with that, which is why we brought in Joe, because he's like, no, I don't care. Moral victory's done. Development done. Either get it done or you're not going to be here. We're not going to continue to run you out because you're going to grow and experience more as a player and get better. No, you're either going to help us win, or you're going to be in the minor leagues, or you're going to be with another team. And it was just refreshing to hear that in a way that wasn't negative, wasn't derogative towards anybody. It was just matter of fact, and it should be, because that's the business. Either you're good enough to help your team win games, or you shouldn't be with the team. I mean, Mike Franco, what are we doing here? How is this guy still on the team year after year after year? Oh, well, it's going to click this year. It's going to click this year. It's going to click. I don't have time for it to click. If I have it click somewhere else and then bring him back post-click, okay? Like, we just can't. Nick Pivetta, I know he's got all the talent in the world, but, dude, I don't have the time to watch you do this. Vince Velasquez, like, if you guys aren't getting it done, we're not going to run you out there just because you have talent or you have the stuff. You're going to need to execute, and you're going to need to actually put up statistics to help this team win. And Joe portrayed that excellently in his press conference. But a little background about Joe Girardi with the Yankees: 910 and 710. So over 1,600 games with them. Over 9 years, 10 years if you include playoffs. I think it was 9, which is why you get to that many games. He won 84 games at least every year. Think about that. The Phillies haven't won 84 games in 9 years, and this guy's never won less than 84 games. I mean, why was it even consideration to go with Gabe Kapler again when this guy with this type of resume is just sitting out there? 6 postseason appearances, won the World Series against us, was an NL Manager of the Year with a Marlins team that, get this one, Dylan, their salary, oh God, what's a payroll? That's what I'm looking for. Their payroll as a team was just over $15 million. and this is 15 years ago, 14 years ago, the highest paid guy, Dontrell Willis. Remember that name, the lefty pitcher? He was making like $4.5 million. And then I think it was Conine was making like $2 million. And everybody else, like bare minimum, $400,000, $500,000. And this guy took that team who was basically like, we're trying to lose and be bad, and barely missed the playoffs. He was like 80 and 82 or something like. He was NL Manager of the Year on a team that finished under 500, literally because everybody was like, "How is he doing this with this group of players?" Like it was like the movie Major League in real life, where they were like, "Just pay." Horrible people the minimum, and hopefully they'll lose. And they didn't. So it was fascinating to kind of dive into that year when I'm going, wait a minute, they had an under 500 record and this guy won Manager of the Year? How does that happen? And that's how it happens, because Jake Arrieta is making more than that entire team. And he's not the only one on the Phillies making more than that entire team. So one last takeaway from the press conference here. Rhys Hoskins, he's going to be on the team next year, ladies and gentlemen. The Philadelphia Phillies made him available for questions, him and his fiance, during the managerial introduction press conference. And, it's typically not good business to make somebody available to the media and then trade him like 3 months later when that manager would definitely be the guy who says trade him coming in. So for them to put his face front and center and basically ask them differences between Kapler, Girardi, how have your conversations going? What are you guys thinking? It tells you he's staying. So all of that, trade Rhys for a pitcher, you guys can put that to sleep. It's not happening. I'm sorry. But let's see. Talking about pitching coaches, a couple of names coming available here. Larry Rothschild, let go by the New York Yankees the same day Joe Girardi hired by the Phillies. Rothschild was Girardi's pitching coach for 7 years in New York. Coincidence? I actually think it might be coincidence, which is kind of funny, but I don't think Joe's going to go with him. I think he knows that the reaction would be just kind of ho-hum and like, oh, of course you did. It's your guy. You went back to him. So the name that's floating around, Jim Salisbury and some other individuals, is Brian Price. Brian was recently the manager of the Reds for a few years, and before that he was a pitching coach for the Mariners, D-backs, and those Reds from 2000 to 2013, and then managed from 14 to 18. So been in a big league dugout on a big league staff since 2000, and a lot of those pitching staffs for the Mariners, D-backs, and Reds were pretty damn good during those years. And early time had Randy Johnson as well as King Felix out there with the Mariners, the D-backs, the Reds, just a name to look out for. So Brian Price. And then the last one that was floated out this morning for hitting coach was Dante Bichette. I wasn't able to look into Dante because I actually saw that right before I came on the air here, but I figured I'd share that with you guys because I don't know if a lot of people have shared Dante Bichette as the potential hitting coach for your Phillies. So that'll wrap up Phillies talk. We'll conclude this segment here with 1 minute on a World Series update. I know it's not Philadelphia, but obviously being the World Series, I figured let's talk about it and how wild these first 5 games have been. The road team has won every game of the World Series. Now, that's something that's never happened in the history for a team that's won it. And it has that potential. Obviously, if Washington wins these next 2, win 4 on the road, lose all 3 at home, that would be unbelievable. I can't even fathom how that would happen and how just the home team doesn't win a game out of 7. That's just wild. But Max Scherzer, he was scratched from Game 5. He's hoping to come back in Game 7 because they are going to stick with Steven Strasburg going against Verlander here in Game 6. But Astros up 3-2. I did check the tape last week. I had the Astros in 6. Certainly didn't look good after those first 48 hours when they dumped 2 in a row, but, here we are. Astros up 3-2. I'm sticking with them in 6. So that's your World Series update. Your second segment here of Too Close to Call, your sports talk radio show at USALA Media, USALA Radio. We'll pause for one more break here and a word from our sponsors, but on the tail end, we'll get into our football talk, talking NFL, talking Eagles, and thank goodness it's going to be a little bit more positive this week. You guys hang around.
Designs for Different Futures, now open at the Philadelphia Museum of Art. Discover provocative ideas that respond to human civilization's future needs, desires, and fears. Explore how we might communicate with extraterrestrials, produce steak from human cells, get intimate with strangers, and edit our own genetics. Is the future apocalyptic or utopian? You decide. Designs for Different Futures. For tickets and more information, go to philamuseum.org.
And welcome back, everybody, to the third and final segment here of Too Close to Call, your sports talk radio show at USALA Media and USALA Radio. If you guys could do me a brief favor here, if you are listening on USALAmedia.com, or even if you're watching on YouTube Live, Facebook, wherever you may be engaging with this content, do me a favor, head to Apple Podcast, pull it up, type in Too Close to Call. Subscribe to the podcast, rate, review the pod. It helps us, spread the word and get a little bit higher on those lists of up-and-coming pods and spreading, and people looking for this type of content when they're searching, Too Close to Call, USALA Media. It'll pop up a little bit higher on the list if you do that for us out there. So we would certainly appreciate it here. Once again, Too Close to Call, wherever you get your podcasts, rate, subscribe, review, and we'll read some of the reviews on the show here if we get going. But this third and final segment, the last 20 minutes or so here, we'll be talking Philadelphia Eagles, NFL football like we typically do. And I do want to, I'm going to multitask here a little bit because today is actually the trade deadline coming up this afternoon. And I want to make sure I'm up to date here with you, ladies and gentlemen, that I didn't miss anything. There was one move made yesterday, but, there's a lot of rumors being going on out there about what's going on today. So I'm going to pull up, a few websites here, multitask. So if I stumble through, that's because my brain has trouble doing two things at once. So bear with me out there. But this past Sunday's game, we'll start there. The Birds hammer the Bills 31-13 in what was kind of a wild game. I mean, the weather was playing tricks with that football out there. The kicking game was kind of crazy. They were going for two because they missed extra points and which way are we kicking, this, that, and the other. But let's see. Offense. Let's start there. Bills, Eagles, offense. The play designs were fantastic for the Philadelphia Eagles. I had been coming on here talking about how for weeks that they need to look at old game film, look at plays that works, looked at ways to kind of get out of the vanilla style of offense that they were running because they were becoming extremely predictable when certain individuals were in the football game. And this will kind of parlay into one specific play that everybody knows out there, but they did things like going 21 personnel, which means 2 running backs, 1 tight end, and a lot of 12 personnel. 1 running back, 2 tight ends, because wide receivers are not good for the Eagles. Mac Hollins, I have a stat on him here. Let me pull up my picture. I had to take a snapshot of this to make sure I didn't forget it for you guys out there. Last 5 games, so basically when Deshaun Jackson hasn't been around, Mac Hollins has 182 snaps. He's got 1 catch for 13 yards. So, Dylan, Mac Hollins only has 13 more yards than you do in the last month or so of NFL football. So, hey, don't give up on that dream yet. You're right there, okay? You're right there. Hey, imagine that. J.J. Arcega-Whiteside, second-round pick, 29 snaps, 0-0-0. So, you and him contributing just as much offensively to the Eagles this season. So, we thank you for your service, Dylan, and providing 0-0-0. That's excellent. It's just, what is that? That's over 200 snaps between 2 guys, and we got 1 catch for 13 yards. Get them off the roster. It's 5 games. What are they doing for you offensively? What are they? Are they distracting people because they're so good? They're a decoy. That's what I was looking for. He's a decoy over there. No, he's not. He's just bad at football. Cut him. Cut his butt. I almost said a bad word. I almost got fined for saying a naughty word on the radio. But please cut him. Just, there's got to be somebody else out there on the practice squad, another team's practice squad, that can give you 0 catches for 0 yards. Believe me, there's somebody out there who can give you 1 catch for 13 yards in a month of football. And I can help you find them if you don't know who it is. Just give me a call, Howie. Let me know. But that's why they've been running these running backs and tight ends, back to the original point where we started. But the one play, the Miles Sanders touchdown, Sanders, Jordan Howard split both sides of the quarterback. They actually only did this, I was looking at some film, I think it was 4 times last week and 2 times this week. And every time they had done that, they had thrown out of that formation. And actually earlier in the game this Sunday, they threw the fade route to Jeffrey. He didn't catch it, but it was a 50-50 ball if you remember. He had a chance, but it was the only other time they ran that formation. So for the the Bills, they're seeing this formation. They're assuming pass based on tendencies and where everybody is. So they go nickel defense, which is a lighter defense, more defensive backs, linebackers, not as heavy run stop. So then the Eagles use Jordan Howard as a fullback, a lead blocker through the hole, get him on the linebacker. He doesn't think Howard's blocking because he's never done it before. All of a sudden, boom, you got your alleyway, and Sanders has the speed to take it to the house. It was fantastic to just see something where you're going, oh, we haven't seen this before. Oh, what are they going to do here? Oh, that's a little funky. Like, just it was his best game. Doug Peterson called, when I say he, Doug Peterson's best game, his second best game potentially. This one in Green Bay were his two best games, and it's one of those conversations again where I think the Eagles may have to run the football to be good offensively. There's this notion and this conversation out there that it's a passing league and you have to let Wentz throw it. He's your best player. You're paying him the most money. And ladies and gentlemen, I don't think that's the case. I think the Eagles need to sit down, and I think they need to pull up the film of the Seattle Seahawks, because the Seattle Seahawks had the most rushing attempts last year. And the year before, they ran the ball as well. And what do people say about Russell Wilson? Oh, he's a top 3 quarterback. He's a top 5 quarterback. He's a top paid quarterback. Russell Wilson doesn't throw the ball 40 times a week. Russell Wilson doesn't throw for 450 yards and 5 touchdowns. Russell Wilson wins football games. That's how you become known as an elite quarterback. Carson Wentz, you could throw for $170, $180, 2 touchdowns every week. If you win the football game, you're going to be known as an elite football player, an elite quarterback. And Seattle's been doing this for 6-7 years now. Hell, even this year, they lost all these guys in the defense. We're thinking, maybe they're back down to earth, and I think they are 5-2 again. Right there, and continuing to run the football and win games ugly and win close games because you're wearing down defenses. You're continuing to pound, and we saw that in the second half of Buffalo. They didn't want to tackle Jordan Howard anymore. They got sick of 240 pounds coming at him with a head full of steam, and we're basically like, dude, just stop. You've been wearing us out for 60 minutes here. 100 yards by you, big play by Sanders, over 200 on the ground. Feed that offensive line. Let them get into a rhythm. Let Wentz work off the play action. Let's run some tight end delays. Let's get Goddard involved because he's an excellent blocker. So people think he's blocking when he's in the game. You get a mismatch on a linebacker. Everything comes from the running game. Now, I understand you can't run the ball 3 straight times on your opening drive when you're already down 7-0 like we talked about in previous weeks, but it's certainly got to be balanced. You're going to need to stay ahead of the downs and distances, and that's going to especially be the case against the Chicago Bears with Khalil Mack and a heck of a defense that they have over there. The defense is not the problem in Chicago. Everybody knows that. You guys listening out there know that. I'm not telling you any news, any breaking news here. This is going to be a low-scoring game on Sunday where you're going to have to not turn the football over, make Chicago go the length of the field, and hopefully wear down that defense to where in the fourth quarter you start breaking off those chunk runs. And with Khalil Mack, obviously they're going to put him on Andre Dillard, our rookie left tackle. I mean, you're not going to put him against Lane Johnson, even if that is his particular side, usually. You got to think they're going to move him against the rookie who's had trouble with bull rushes and top-flight pass rushers. Well, Khalil Mack's the next level when it comes to pass rushers. So look for that coming up on Sunday, and that being a key matchup when it comes to success of the Eagles' offense, as well as Wentz getting rid of the football. Now, I think it was 2 years ago they played Chicago. They came out with a spread offense, 5 wide receivers, spreading them wide, because typically when you spread them out 5 wide, it's quicker decisions, it's quicker passes, and they need that because Wentz did hold on to the football a little too long sometimes. That is certainly still, a critic of his that he hangs on to it, but he made all the plays he had to make. And that drive that they had in the fourth quarter, 15 plays, 80-some yards, the one play, literally, he did so well that people thought it was a designed quarterback run. And then you found out afterwards it was supposed to be a wide receiver screen. The defense read it so well that he just pumped, tucked, and knew his lineman would be down there, took off, went head first through 2 tackles, got the first down on 3rd and 10. Not exactly what you want to see your quarterback doing, diving head first, but I'm at the point where I need this guy to win games. I need him to use his legs. I need him to be who he was in 2017 because since then we've said, hey, yeah, he was really good, but that's why he got hurt. We need him to be a pocket passer. We don't want him running. We want him sitting back there, staying healthy. Well, when we've been telling him to do that, guys, he's like 15 and 17. That's not who he is as a football player. It's not why he got here. It's not why he made $130 million. And injuries are part of the game. So you just have to let him play and be him. And, he could play 16 games in a row. Brett Favre was one of the most reckless human beings ever, the gunslinger. And he played 300 games in a row. And then you got other individuals who, you try not to get hit. All of a sudden, one of their own linemen rolls on them and they're out. Or, they're running a route and they go down. It's injuries you can't play, or you can't tell them, hey, try to stay out of trouble. Yes, you don't want them to be stupid, but you got to let him play football. And if him running the ball adds another element to the offense and actually allows you to score 30 points instead of 20 and win the football game, you have to do it. Because when you're scoring 20 with Carson Wentz, you're a 500 team anyway. So if he's hurt, it doesn't matter. Because with him doing those things, you're only 500. So, he's playing. Well, that's cool. You're only 500. So I'd rather you guys be 6-0, have him miss 4 weeks, come back and then be 6-0 again, or whatever the heck it breaks down to. But a positive step for the offense and for the Eagles, obviously heading into another tough week with the Bears, but a game you got to win. I know we said last week that these Bills and Bears games were gettable for this Eagles team, and that's certainly still the case. The Bills, we saw what they are. Josh Allen, transitioning over to the Eagles defense, Josh Allen is not a great quarterback. He cannot read the whole field. He only needs half field reads and high-low reads. That's when he's able to actually go through his progressions. He cannot go right to left whatsoever. He's a one-read guy, boom, run. I mean, you saw that. His best plays on Sunday, a lot of them were runs, and about half of his runs were actually called runs. And when he actually had to sit back there, try to go through his progressions, that's when he held on to the football, and you got 2 of your strip sacks. So the defense made the play of the game. It was late in the first half. It was 7-3. Not a lot was going right. Brandon Graham, strip sack fumble, recovers it, gives the Eagles offense a short field. They go down and punch it in. 10-7 halftime. We get the ball out of halftime, go right down, punch it in again. 17-7, and boom. Just like that, the Patriots' favorite play, scoring in the last 2 minutes and the first 2 minutes, similar to the quick 6 we talked about. But it goes from 7-3 to 17-7. You go, holy cow, we haven't touched the football, and now all of a sudden we're down 10 points. Last time we had it, we were up 4, and as a quarterback, that can wear on you. But shout out to the whole defense, more or less. It was it's interesting to see because there were a few differences this week when looking at the film, and I'm trying to decide whether it had to do with health, whether it had to do with the opponent, or whether it had to do with the weather. Because Ronald Darby and Jalen Mills coming back to stabilize your cornerback position, because those were your 2 starters on paper last year, and one's healthy this year. And the Eagles played a lot of cover 1 man-to-man defensively, which they typically don't do, or I guess I could say haven't done this year. And is that because they wanted to, once again, they got healthy? Or is it because they're playing the Bills? And exactly what I just said, Josh Allen stinks. And that's the best way to force him to go through his reads and progression, is not give him zone, but make him throw precise passes and man-to-man, because even if you're open, you're only open by a yard, and accuracy isn't his best quality. So he missed open receivers, and I think that was part of the plan. Or was it the weather? Was it the wind? And the fact that, hey, we're going to stop the run, we're going to make you throw the football because not only you guys, but nobody may be able to throw the football today. It was probably a combination of all 3, but just the fact that they played a lot of man-to-man and cover 1 defensively was once again a nice change from what you had seen. And it shows Jim Schwartz is either looking at his players or his opponent, and he's really kind of breaking down how do we most effectively, perform against this team. And it showed up. Only giving up 13 points, a couple of touchdowns for them defensively. So the last 10 minutes or so here, 5 to 10 minutes, we're going to talk trade deadline. Like I said, I'm trying to multitask, make sure I don't miss anything here, up to date to the minute for you guys with the trade deadline. But we'll touch on the one trade they did make, the Philadelphia Eagles, yesterday. And it's an interesting conversation to have because they traded for a defensive end, Jannard Avery. And Jannard was a 5th-round pick out of Memphis last year. Okay, he played in all 16 games last year and really put good film out there. Really showed that he could get after the quarterback. He was a linebacker in college, stand-up, 2-point stance guy, but transitioned in the NFL to kind of an undersized defensive end, more of a pass-rushing specialist. And we know you can't have, you can never not have pass rushers. The more the merrier for them. But this year, with a new coaching staff, new front office, new everything that's kind of going on over there, he's been a healthy scratch. He's only played in 2 games. So what the heck's going on? Is it the guy who really played well with the film last year who showed that he should absolutely be on the field? Or is it the kid who apparently can't get on the field because his practice film is so poor that the coaches can't trust him? And if you're the Eagles, they gave up a fourth-round pick for this guy. And you don't give up a fourth-round pick unless you actually like this kid coming out of college, too, because he was a fifth-rounder, played 1 year, and apparently upped his value to that of a fourth-round pick. So the Eagles were very high on him coming out of Memphis from everything I've heard. But if you talk to the Browns reporters or the Browns fans, they think they fleeced us, like those Geico commercials where, you get the poll or the runaround or something, whatever they are, where from your bank. But they're saying this guy was a fifth-round pick, was okay as a rookie, can't get on the field for a team that's under 500 right now in Cleveland. Why the heck would you ever give up a fourth-round pick for a guy who can't play for a sub-500 team? And that's where I just think Howie, based on the measurables, thinks that if he gets him with his coaching staff and working with his guys, that he'll really be able to bring the best out of them. And watching his film, it was good film. So I think it's a good move, considering the fact that your fourth-round pick this year, Sharif Miller, can't get on the field. Yeah, and then years past, Avonte Maddox, he's been a good one. But the year before that, it was Donnell Pumphrey, who's no longer on the team. So, your track record of fourth-round picks isn't that great. And you can get a guy who's already got game film at the National Football League level, somebody you can work with, you kind of know what you're getting, and at the very least should help you on special teams. So I think it was a good move for the price. Obviously, they need additional help. There's your D-line help. They still need a wide receiver. We touched on those reasons why. And some secondary help. So let me hit refresh here one more time, but because there's a few names that everybody's going through here, but... Oh, here we go. It looks like Deshaun Jackson reportedly to return for the Eagles against the Bears. That's a surprise to me, ladies and gentlemen, honestly, reading that. I thought with a bye next week, why would you even rush to push him back to try to get a game out of him when you can just sit him down and get another 2 weeks out of him? But he's obviously going to be on a pitch count, and if you can get 5 to 10 snaps, maybe take 1 or 2 shots, what the heck, run him out there, see what happens. But, certainly surprised to read that Deshaun will be back after missing 6 games. And I know that 6-game mark's the special one for him because if he had actually gotten the surgery, it was a 6 to 8 week recovery, and here we are at 6, post-bye week. It would have just made sense. Dude, just get the surgery, come back at 100%, because now, apparently, he's going to be at most, 80 to 85%. So really, we'll see how he comes back and if he's going to be able to, be same old D-Jax when he gets back. So, all right, let's see. Trade rumors. Here we go. Updates. The Dallas Cowboys might be getting Jamal Adams. Ooh, that's not good for Eagles fans. The New York Jets are open to trading Adams, and the Cowboys have touched base on a potential deal. So, no word about compensation yet. Obviously, it would be huge, him being a former first-round pick and a top 10 pick and somebody who's played well for them. So that would be a huge bombshell. But the New York Jets also shopping Le'Veon Bell. Go get him, Eagles. No, they're good with Sanders and Sanders and Howard, those two guys. I think they're good to go for the next foreseeable future. I think they should even re-sign Howard because those two, a little thunder and lightning, have been pretty solid these past couple of weeks for sure. Doesn't look like we're getting much else here. Obviously, a lot of people talking rumors and players. Robbie Anderson's been out there, the Jets speed guy, obviously because the Jets are selling. Joe Douglas being with the Jets now recently from the Eagles. That's obviously a connection people are making there. But let's pull up a few different targets here for the last minute or two as we wrap up, just to make sure, once again, we're not missing anything. But Chris Harris, Darius Slay, there you go. We'll talk about the corners. Darius Slay from the Detroit Lions. Really good corner. It's somebody you really want to add to your team. However, rumor has it he's going to be worth a first-round pick, and that's too high for Slay, in my opinion. Same with Chris Harris. They're asking for a second. That's too high to pay for Chris Harris. It's one of those things where, obviously, it's a seller's market, and I just don't want to overpay because we're an older football team, and we kind of need all these assets we can get. But everything fourth round and after, I say move all of them. I don't care for any of them. You're going to get picks back when it comes to compensation picks and losing free agents here in the near future, as well as those are just They're lottery tickets. Like I said, we've missed on 2 out of 3 fourth-rounders. They're not even on the team anymore. But Devontae Parker, wide receiver for the Dolphins, he's being thrown around a little bit to help on the outside. Anderson, a couple of corners. Ultimately, I think it could be a disappointing day today in Philadelphia Eagles world. I don't know if Howie's really going to have that bombshell trade that we've come accustomed to. So we'll see. We'll see. But that'll wrap it up here for Too Close to Call, sports talk radio show here at USALA Media and USALA Radio. Talking about the Eagles here in the last segment. They are 4.5-point favorites against the Bears coming home. I'm probably going to take the Bears and the points in that one. I think the Eagles may win the game, but I think 3 to 4 point victory is probably what we're looking at. But Bears offense not very good. Eagles offense hasn't been good. Was actually good this past Sunday, but that was the first time in a while they were good. So as we wrap up and conclude here one more time, I know I ask you this every week, but it really does help us spread the word. Helps us, continue to grow, gain sponsors, and advance as a company, as well as myself with Too Close to Call. So head to Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Play, wherever you get your podcasts. Rate and review the pod. Too Close to Call. We're on YouTube Live right now. Head there later tonight, tomorrow, if you want to rewatch the show. If you're just listening on USALA Media, there is some good video that goes along with it today, so check that out. But as always out there, guys, I appreciate you listening. Continue to share with all of your friends. Let them know it's Too Close to Call, Philly Sports Talk here on Tuesday. I'll talk to you guys this weekend, where we'll be talking a little more college and NFL football. Until then, stay out of trouble. Happy Halloween, and we'll see you this weekend. Peace.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 10, 9, 8, 76. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.